Welcome back to 31 Days of Halloween, where if you could not have guessed it based on my very poor imitation of the dueling banjos just now, we are going to be talking about the 1972 film Deliverance. Now, this movie, I have actually heard a lot about prior to me watching it. In my research about horror movies in general, this is talked about as one of the greatest horror films of all time. A lot of people have based their own movies on this. They talk about how it masterfully builds tension, or the city man versus country man. It's created a lot of the enduring hillbilly tropes. This was kind of like the origin of the hillbilly slasher movie. And a lot of the reviews and stuff just talk about how horrifying this movie is and how groundbreaking it is and just what a masterful creation this movie was. And I can't say that I agree. I personally found that this movie was overrated, and it's almost kind of like 2 minutes, not 2 minutes, it's like 2 hours of waiting for something interesting to happen, and kind of nothing interesting ever really happens. And that's not to say that there's not a few good parts of the movie. The banjo scene, which happens right in the beginning between Ronnie Cox's character and the little hillbilly boy, is one of, like, I've been hearing about, like, turn around if you hear banjo music in the woods, the hillbillies are gonna get you. So I've known about dueling banjos and that song for far longer than, like, I had even heard about the movie Deliverance. So it was kind of a lot of fun to see them actually play it out and see that whole kind of story unfold between Ronnie Cox and this kid. But after that, there's not much to the movie that I particularly liked. Like, the whitewater rafting scenes were a lot of fun. They were really interesting. And then when you find out that the characters all did their own stunts because they couldn't afford to hire stuntmen and there was no insurance, it kind of ups the stakes a little bit. Especially, like, Burt Reynolds did actually hurt himself while filming the movie. But a lot of the movie is just these four men basically trying to come to terms with the fact that they walked into this environment thinking that, oh, we're big macho men, especially Burt Reynolds' character, where he's like, oh, you gotta play the game of survival. You know, we're going out into the woods, and if you don't know how to be a macho man, you're not gonna make it out alive. These four guys walk into these woods and think that they're going to basically run the forest because they're big shots from wherever it is they come back from in the city, and they basically want to tame this river before it gets dammed up and is non-existent. That could be any kind of movie. It's men doing what men do. And then I don't even understand why this movie is a horror, to be honest. It does have those themes that sometimes run in horror, where it's city folk versus country folk, or man versus nature. And then, I know this can be kind of a spoiler, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because everybody kind of already knows about it. But you have that infamous rape scene of Ned Beatty's character, where I knew about it from all the reading that I've done, and the scene was uncomfortable in how awkward it was, or how awkward the characters looked while filming it. I mean, Jon Voight's character, while he's watching this, is just like completely blank-faced, and not in the way that characters look when they're experiencing some kind of trauma. It was more kind of like he was blank-faced because he didn't know what to do with himself. It was just like, oh, okay, I should be looking horrified right now, but I don't really know how to do that in relation to this, so I'm just going to make my face blank. And then when you get to the actual rape part, it kind of takes a little bit to figure out what exactly is even going on. Um, you know, most of the times, especially in rape scenes of women, it's very clear what's going on, and it's very graphic, and it's very drawn out. This was not all that graphic, it was not all that drawn out, and you can't even make the excuse that it was from the 1970s, because The Last House on the Left also came out in 1972, and then you also had the original I Spit on Your Grave come out during this time period, and both of those have very, very prolonged graphic rape scenes of women. So it is just kind of very frustrating and confusing for people to say that this is one of the most horrifying rape scenes of all time or horrifying movies of all time. It's terrifying. It makes an impact on you. But then we have these other movies, and is it somehow less impactful because it's a woman? Is this playing on these real life men's fears of, being victimized in a way that they don't typically expect to be victimized in? Because usually men don't feel like they have to worry about any of this kind of stuff. Like I said, they go out there feeling like they're kings of the river and they're going to do whatever they want to do, and they're making fun of the hillbillies and they're kind of being really inconsiderate of them. I mean, Burt Reynolds' character even just throws around the word rape to describe what man is doing to the forest and this river. And it's almost as if the word really doesn't have any meaning to him. And they never use that word to describe what happens to Ned Beatty's character. Like, nobody even kind of mentions it, and he doesn't want to go to the cops with it, and no one questions that. But if it had been a female character, they probably would have been like, no, you have to go to the cops. So again, there's the difference between like how this man's situation is treated and how the woman's situation is treated or would have been treated. So what is the message that this movie is really trying to get across? Because at the end of the day, the rape scene is almost kind of forgotten, even though it was supposed to be powerful and horrifying and moving. And the characters don't seem to be all that moved by their experience by the end of the movie. It just feels kind of trite for a horror movie to be themed after something as run-of-the-mill as men's machismo. Because you can get that in any other action, sci-fi, fantasy, thriller, mystery movie. Men have this machismo in pretty much every other movie where they overcome the odds against them or they fight against it. So the movie didn't do it for me. It gets pretty high scores on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. So IMDb, it's got like a 7.7, and Rotten Tomatoes, it's like high 80s, like an 89 for the critics, and general viewing audience is like an 82. My initial reaction to this film was to give it a 2 because I felt that it was not worth the 2 hours worth of viewing time. It could have been significantly shorter. I felt that the theme was kind of weak, and I didn't feel like the hype around it was worth it. And I know sometimes you shouldn't really go into stuff expecting things out of it because hype can always let you down. And sometimes you expect more from the movie than what was actually guaranteed. But this is supposed to be like a cornerstone of horror film and horror history. So like you should really expect a lot from it. So the only reason why I gave it a 4 and gave it those 2 extra points, and as I'm talking about it, I kind of feel like it still doesn't even deserve this, is because so many people reference this movie as an influence that they used for their own films that I personally enjoy. Like The Descent is one of them. Saw references this movie. Or James Wan references this movie as being one of his inspirations for how to build tension in Saw. And then you also get the enduring hillbilly slasher tropes from this movie. And then on top of that, you add in the dueling banjos song, so I guess maybe I can give it an extra 2 points for that. even though I don't, it pains me almost to give this movie 4 stars out of 10 because I just don't feel from my level of enjoyment it doesn't deserve that many stars. It deserves like a 2 compared to other movies that I reviewed who got like 4s or 5s. Like I think Wolf Creek I only gave like a 2. So comparing this to Wolf Creek, it just I would rewatch Wolf Creek 16 times before I had to rewatch this one once. So Deliverance obviously didn't do it for me. There's really no spoilers to talk about in this movie. I don't think the ending is really all that noteworthy to talk about. Because again, I don't feel like there's much to talk about what happened with these characters at the end. It wasn't very impactful how they ended out the movie, or how they wrapped everything up at the end of the movie. So there won't be a spoiler section here today. If you do really like this movie and feel that it's truly deserves that cornerstone representation of horror, sorry, I really disagree with you on that one. But I am in the same proverbial boat with you guys, rowing down river trying to escape some hillbillies if you didn't like this movie. So that is it for today. I hope you guys liked this review. I hope you enjoyed my little at the beginning. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this video with all your other horror friends, and then maybe you can laugh about how I feel this movie is so terrible. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye. What are you doing, bad dog? Hello, Hardy girl. Hardy girl. Are you a good girl? Are you a good girl? Okay, bye-bye.